So good afternoon to all. Once again, we welcome you all to the 5 days FTP, which is being sponsored by Atal Training and Atal Training Learning Initiatives by AICTE. This 5 days FTP is being in progress in the thrust area robotics. So robotics is one of the recently developing thrust area. So we thank AICTE for sponsoring this 5 days FTP on behalf of Chennai Institute of Technology and its management. So in the yesterday's session and today's sessions, we have been discussing about the fundamental concepts on robotics and how these concepts are being utilized in understanding the functionalities of robotics. And now we are in the practical session. Myself, V. Dinagaran. So the another one professor who is on the screen is Mr. R. Kishore. So both of us will be handling this session. So this session will be a practical demo, and this will be in progress through the KUKA Robotics Center of Excellence. So as far as Chennai Institute of Technology is concerned, so we believe in teaching learning process and we follow a different teaching learning process. Because of this different teaching learning process, we have established 15 Center of Excellence. And among this 15 Center of Excellence, KUKA Industrial Robotics Center is one of the Center of Excellence, which has been initiated in the year of 2013 by the vision of our Honorable Chairman, Sri P. Sriram. So we have KUKA Industrial Robots with a payload of 16 kg, and this KUKA Industrial Robotics Center is being utilized to train the students in basic, intermediate, and advanced level. And also, this setup is being utilized to train the industry peoples from the eminent companies like Saint-Gobain and BorgWarner. And in fact, this is also being utilized to train the professors and technical peoples from the college and universities. So through this session, you'll be having some good knowledge enhancement in handling the robots and how to program. So let me welcome Mr. Kishore, who is going to take part of this session and going to carry the session in the excellent way. He is fully concentrating on the KUKA Industrial Center, and he has trained so many students and so many faculties from national and international universities. Even we have collaboration from Malaysian universities. The faculty and students are will be visiting our institute regularly, and they are getting trained. So Mr. Kishore is one of the excellents who is putting his effort in training the students and faculty members and the industrial peoples. And let me welcome Mr. Kishore, and I am handing over the session to Kishore. Mr. Kishore, sir, you can carry over the session.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for the warm welcome, sir.
Yeah.
And I welcome all the participants of the FDP program on the robotics and its application. And I welcome you all for the CIIT's Industrial Robotics Training Facility, KUKA. We have collaborated this facility with German-made manufacturing company of industrial robots, KUKA. They are the leading manufacturers in Germany, and they are the prominent manufacturers of industrial robots for nearly more than 80 years. And they are the leading manufacturers also of the industrial robots. This facility is the South India's first training facility for industrial robotics, and we are prominently training many people, as Dr. Dinagaran sir said. And in this today's program, we are going to understand about the basics of industrial robotics and the applications of industrial robotics, and also small programming knowledge on the industrial robotics also to be learned in this session. I hope this session will be knowledgeable session, and will be having a good takeover from this session. And straight away we'll be moving on to the presentation part, and we'll be moving on to straight away also about the understanding of the basics of industrial robots. Yeah. And this is a explanation of KUKA, Keller and Nopich from Augsburg, which they started the manufacturing of this digital robots in the year of 1898. And that is what the name KUKA stands for. Most of you will be having an awkward feeling that what is it KUKA is meant by. This is what the meaning of this KUKA. And robots are nothing but the multifunctional manipulators which used to do perform the jobs which is given by the human commands, and how it is reprogrammable, and it can be a multifunctional manipulator. Since these robots, whatever we are going to see right now is the manipulators, we call them as manipulators because they can do multiple operations and multiple programs, and it can be reprogrammed through the sessions what we are going to adapt into. That is where it is called as multifunctional manipulator. And importantly, before going into any concept of robotics or any concept of understanding of robotics, we have to make sure about understanding about the father of robotics, who also defined the laws of robotics, who is nothing but Isaac Asimov. And Asimov has proposed three major laws for this industrial robotics, the general robotics. The first law is nothing but a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow human being to come to harm. This was the first law. It should not injure any human being, or it should not allow any human being to injure the robot also. That is what the first law is. The second law is the robot must obey the orders given to a human being, given by a human being, except such orders conflict with the higher order law. The higher order of law is the law one is the first order, the law two is the second order, and the law three is the third order of law. The second order states that a robot should obey anything and everything which a human has been proposed to do it, but it should not conflict with the first law. For example, if a human being is telling another human to hit another human being or to propose on some other human being, it should not obey the orders. That is what this is meant by. And the third law is a robot must protect its own existence as long as its protection does not conflict with the higher order of law. Obviously, if something is happening into the robotic environment, or something is going, it is going to hit some area or something, it should protect its own existence. It should not just hit it and it should collapse somewhere. It should protect its own existence until otherwise it is conflicting with the higher order of law. As we seen before, the higher order of law states that these robots should not injure human being. If it is protecting itself, it should not in that action it should not injure human being. Also, it should obey all the orders given by the human beings. For example, if a human being is insisting to demolish a robot, it should demolish, because the second order is the higher order law than the third order. So this is how the order of hierarchy has been placed by Isaac Asimov, who is the father of the father of the robotics, and what most importantly we have been looking in for. And to the next, what we're going to see is about the application part, and how these robots have been established in the current scenario. And one more thing is there is a lot of complication going around about the differentiation of the automation and the robotics. There is a big concept between the automation and robotics. I'll be explaining with the PPT. Yeah, automation is stuff which is involves in mechanical device that can initiate action of people or animal. And robotics involves in design, construction, and operation of a robot. It is a machine that performs complicated tasks and guided by a automatic control robot. In simple words, if I tend to explain you, is that if robotics is a study of robots, or understanding of robot about its kinematics, about its grippers, or about its servo motors, or everything in and around with a single robot. But in case of automation, automation deals with a complete line setup where it involves machineries, it involves robots, or it involves conveyors, everything it involves in it, where the complete action is taken around without any human interaction. We call it as automation. This is what the basic difference between the robots and automation. And right now, our India is moving in and around with the robotics into only a partial stage. There are a lot more application running around the world, where many countries are like Germany, Japan, and Korea. They are moving towards the Industry 4.0, and they are trying to adapt into the next generation of industry. Industry X also is the concept they are looking forward for. But in case of India, we are just following the Industry 3.0, and we are stepping into robotics and application of robotics. And we don't have really much number of industrial robotics manufacturers also in our country. We are the end application users of industrial robotics. I am keep on telling about industrial robotics and industrial robotics again and again. There is these robots can be widely classified into two terms. One is the industrial robotics, another one is the domestic robotics. Whatever we have seen through in the real time world is mostly on the base of domestic robots. We can give an example like the autonomous cars, the drones, or any kind of the surveillance vehicles or surveillance cameras or surveillance drones. Everything is based on these domestic robots, where these two kind of domestic robots plays a very minimal role in the human race, where in case of the industrial robots, it plays a very active role in the human industrial application. And these industrial robots nearly constitutes 80% of the the general robot population. If you take the robot population, it's nothing but total number of robots available in the world. It is called as robot population. Around 80% of this robot population involves only the industrial robots. Only the 20% of the robot population constitutes about the domestic robots. That is where these domestic robots and these industrial robots have been split off. If you take these industrial robots, it can be classified into many different types, like the Cartesian type robots, the SCARA robots, articulated robots, and many types are there available in industrial robots. That is all we are going to see in this scenario. And we are also going to understand about the facility which we have the controller part, and behind we have the industrial robot itself, KUKA KR16, 16 kg payload industrial robot. They're going to understand the basic programming knowledge of the industrial robot, as well as a small program of pick and place applications also we are going to see in this session. Before going into the real demonstration session, we are to understand partial content of this real-time industrial robot. So just we'll be skipping off to the where various fields where these industrial robots have been equipped into. We are seeing different fields listed out in the PPT, where agriculture, automobile, construction, entertainment, healthcare, and laboratories, law enforcement, manufacturing, military. There are a hell a lot of applications where these robots have been used in for. And mostly you can see this agricultural field, you can see for spraying the disinfectants, even for plucking the weeds also right now. There are robots to do this application. That is where these robots are used in agricultural field. If you take the automobile field is right now mostly equipped system is that industrial robots are for pick and place, welding, gluing, palletizing, packing, for all purpose. These robots have been used in for. In construction, there is a module called 3D printing. These technology involves industrial robots to construct large houses in the real-time scenario. There such construction purpose are there. The entertainment, I will be coming back to the entertainment in the later part of the session. There is one controversial topic where how come these robots can be used into entertainment. I will also explain you with a possible video which can show you how efficiently these robots are used into entertainment purpose also. And if you take in healthcare and hospitals, these robots are used to for scanning purpose. In general, the application You can see the Siemens products from the Siemens, and KUKA also are used it for CT and MRI, CT scans and MRI scans, where you no need to go into the direct flow chamber to for scanning purpose. The robot will be circulating around you with the pivoted point and efficiently take out the scans, not radiating into the large amount of X-rays. So that is one such kind of application where these robots are used in. And as for surveillance, in surveillance, as I said before, the drones are used in for surveillance. Even the unmanned vehicles are used in for surveillance. Yeah, the in transportation right now, Amazon and Germany and US, they are utilizing these kind of drones or robots to deliver the products in this quarantine situation. They could not equip a human being to drop the products at the required destination. So they are using drones and unmanned vehicles to travel through the air and the road also to define the derived positionings. And the next major concept is warehouses. There is one efficient example for this warehouses is that we have done a project for a company called YCH Logistics, where these YCH Logistics utilizes it is a logistic company where they have large warehouses, and they have lot of products, various products which has been incorporated through the warehouse, where people cannot get into that randomly and pick up a product randomly. They get confused to what the product has been picking up. So these kind of robots have been equipped into these warehouses, and we've done a project for it. What is the application is that the if you feed the product name in the system, it will straight away give the signal to the robot. The robot analyzes have a magnetical strip path to reach each and every pallet, and this robot straight away moves to the pallet. When it reaches the pallet, the receiver, that is the pallet, receives the sensor, and it glows a light on it. And the people who is illiterate also, who is not having knowledge on the concepts also, they can easily work over the warehouse environment. That is where the application of these kind of robots have been used in for. So these are some of the application parts which we generally used in the uh, real-time world, where various fields have been used in for. And if you take industries, as we are dealing about industrial robots, and if you take industry, there are certain very basic application where these industrial robots are regularly used in for. They are like material handling, to transfer one object from one place to another, and material transferred through one area to the other area, and machine loading or unloading. Obviously, the loading and unloading are done by these kind of industrial robots. Yeah, it's welding. Welding is a very precise operation we need to taken care of. Such kind of operations also done through these industrial robots. And spray painting, one more important topic. In the recent times, if you have taken any vehicle, if you take any four-wheeler or two-wheeler, if you see the surface of the vehicle, you cannot see any kind of irregularities in the surface of the paint. That is highly precise painting, which can be done only through these kind of industrial robots, where these have separate algorithms for painting. And there is also a hazardous environment where human beings, if they regularly work on, they feel differentiately, they feel very uncomfortable in that situations. So such kind of situations also can be adapted through these industrial robots. And in assembly, obviously, in the vehicle assembly, these kind of industrial robots are efficiently used in for. And finally, into inspection, in the quality check also, right now, these industrial robots plays an important role. And since this industry, if you take this industry 4.0 and industry X, to the next forthcoming industries, these uh, all the application what we have seen is more prominently looked after, and efficiently trained robots have been needed in the usage. And other than these kind of application into medical fields, for even for surgical purpose, these robots are used in, and for utilizing into hazardous environment, these robots are used. And there are many applications we can be naming again and again according to the usage or utilization of humans. Human needs are there. The robots applications also we keep on evaluating according to the application what we are using it. This is what the basic introduction I wanted to give about the robotic application. And I also wanted to share you a small video which can make you emphasize and understand about the real-time applications of the robots into industry, how it is actually works on. Because some people will not be having efficient understanding about how these robots are really working in an industry. So on that note, I've just captured a small video from the manufacturing company called Tesla, which is in the situation in US right now. This plant uses mostly all the application which is done is using these robots. So we are going to visualize the basic application video from the Tesla. Right now, I'm sharing this video to you.
From a manufacturing standpoint, the way we assemble this car, the way we put it together, all of this is essentially very different from another car. Aluminum, maybe 50, 60 coils. We start the process by uncoiling the coils in a special machine we call blanking machine that allows to flatten the metal first and then cut it into flat pieces. We call them blanks. In addition to traditional blanking tools, we're using laser. And then with these pieces, we feed them to the press lines, these gigantic dies. And the press lines essentially form the panels, boom. We are getting all of the parts necessary to make the body of the vehicle out of those gigantic machines. And then all of these parts, as they are finished, so to speak, are brought to the body shop.
The role of the body center is to take all the stamping panels that we make and we bring all that together in one central location. And that's where we actually put the Model S together. We'll start and we do an underbody, which is the main floor system of the car. And then from there, we'll move to body sides. That's the internal reinforcement as well as the outer skin. And inside the framing area, we take the body sides, the underbody, and the front end of the car, and we actually marriage it all together. One of the most unique things about this body center is we actually have 5 different overall joining methods for the body shell. We use adhesive, we use self-piercing rivets, we have cold metal transfer, conventional resistance welding, as well as a new Delta Spot welding system. When a body leaves the body center, it's actually a full, completed body shell ready to be prepped and painted.
You have a gigantic robot that takes the body and put it into a conveyor. It is conveyed to the paint shop. You have multiple pre-treatment, primer, base coat, clear coat. All of this is supplied with robots that have a special ability to paint in a very clean environment. You get a beautiful painted body that's coming to General Assembly, where we have these super elegant robots we call smart cart, where every card is essentially moving through the factory by itself. It follows a magnetic strip, and essentially the card is being assembled from inside out. We're utilizing automation to the fullest. We have a variety of robots, from the teeny little ones to huge ones that are able to move the entire body itself. One of the robots that I'm always very impressed to look at is the one that puts the seats inside the Model S. And the same robot is able to change tools, go from a seat handling device to putting the windshield actually grab the windshield, put some glue around it, and then put the windshield onto the car, as well as do the rear glass of the vehicle. So talk about versatility here.
We have most everything we need right here in-house. We do the majority of our stamping panels ourselves. We have design engineers here at the facility, so we're very nimble and very quick at what we do.
Currently, it takes about 3 to 5 days for a Model S to go from raw material all the way to being finished on the bamboo line. It's magnificent. It's like a piece of art. We constantly try to improve process efficiency. We want to push the boundaries of what can be done by robots versus humans. So it's a constant evolution. This Tesla factory is the future of the USA and the world. That's the way I see it. We are building the future here. That's how proud I feel about this.
Yeah, right now, what you have visualized is the basic application end in the Tesla factory, where they utilize around nearly 1,600 watts robots for each and every application. You can see majorly all the application from the blanking, from the starting, they use gantry robots to pick the raw material, that is the aluminum sheets. From there, from the blanking, cutting, stamping, through the different methodology of joining process, painting, and the final assembly line layout through. All these applications are thoroughly established using the industrial robots. So right now you would have gotten basic idea how these industrial robots will really look like and how efficiently these industrial robots can be taken into the application part also. This is how the real-time industrial robotic world is equipped into. And there is one more application which I said I will be explaining you about in the later classes is about the entertainment. You cannot expect these kind of industrial robots into entertainment purpose. Actually, it is possible. There is a lot of entertainment purposes actually possible through this industrial robots. Actually, in the if you coin the term entertainment, obviously the first term which comes to your mind is the film. If you take the film shooting right now, the Hollywood films mostly looks CG. They look after CG, computer graphics. But these computer graphics, whatever we are going to input it in the efficient manner, it looks like there is some flaw happening behind this computer graphics. So they use these kind of industrial robots to shoot films which will look so fluidic, and you cannot differentiate that it is a CG or done thing or it is shot in the real-time environment. So these industrial robots are used for filming the movies, and many ad films are right now shot using this kind of industrial robots very efficiently. And many application part of these industrial robots are also available, and we are going to see the applications in the video manner also in the forthcoming sessions. And coming back to the industrial robots, if there are three major terms where these industrial robots are consisted of, these three terms are the controller, the major part which the box-like structure, it is very this was the very efficient stuff in the industrial robot total stuff, where all the connections and bus everything is traveled through the controller, and there is a medium where we can give instructions, and the robot can understand the instruction through the controller only. So there is a very important term in the industrial robot. The next thing is manipulator. The manipulator is nothing but that is the robot, industrial robot, what we generally see. It is a articulated armed structure where the servo motors are used to control the each and every armed joints motion. So this is what we call it as manipulator, or in general we call it as robot arm. I will be explaining why we call it as arm. And finally, the third one is the teeth pendant. The teeth pendant is nothing but it is just like a remote for the robot where whatever we are going to need to operate, it will be the signals will be going through the teach pendant. It will reach the controller. The controller will be giving the feedback to the manipulator. This is how the circulation will be working on. Whatever we have to work on with, we have to work with the teach pendant, or in KUKA we call it as KUKA smart pad. This is where the inputs can be given and the outputs can be exerted from the manipulator. These are the three important terms of the industrial robots, which we are going to see, and we are going to see understand about the end effectors and the grippers part at the later part of the session. And before going into the end effector and the grippers, we are going to understand about the teach pendant very clearly, and also about the accuracy and repeatability concepts. Very important term in the robotic term is its accuracy and repeatability. And I've defined a basic chart to make you understand about the accuracy and repeatability. These accuracy and repeatability you can also see in various aspects, like in metrology and measurements. Also, you can see these kind of accuracy and repeatability chart where the quality check has been when conducted. They have to give out uh, a random variation check where these kind of outputs will be given out. The first one is the you can see the cross section in the yellow line. It is the command position, which is the accurate position, and the greens are where you get the actual outputs. These are the four different types of possibilities which can be achieved in the regular possibility way. First one is low absolute accuracy and low repeatability. Because this is low absolute accuracy and low repeatability because each and every output which we are getting is in various places. It is not in the same place, so it is called as low repeatability. And low absolute accuracy is because in the cross section we have not received any output, so that is called as low absolute accuracy. Next one is high absolute accuracy because in the cross section area, near to the cross section area, we have received all the outputs, but again it is a low repeatability. Repeatability in the sense, again and again, if you are replacing the same point, you will be getting high repeatability. So next one is low absolute accuracy, but it has high repeatability. You are getting the same position again and again, but it is not near to the accurate value. And finally, we have high accurate absolute accuracy and high repeatability. You are getting at the required position and repeated stuff. This is where high absolute accuracy and high repeatability is stated. This is where these industrial robots are mostly prominent in term. It has high absolute accuracy and high repeatability. And this is only the major term where one of the major impact why the industrial robots are adapted rather than going into for human beings. Because if you take the human beings are very bad at repeatable jobs. We can take any number of examples, because once you are prone to do the same jobs again and again. For example, if you are given a job to write one full notebook a day again and again. If you are doing, you will not be efficient in doing the same job. You get depressed of it. Your limbs get depressed, and obviously you will be not efficient in doing the repeated jobs. But if human beings are given dynamic jobs, for example, today you are going to write one object, tomorrow you have to select another object, so tomorrow you are going to do some other object, some different objectives in daily basis, the humans are very good at, very efficient at. But doing in repeated jobs, these human beings are not good at, and these robots plays an important role in doing repeated jobs. So that is where these robots have been promptly equipped into the real-time applications of
Vishnu, sir,
industrial.
sorry
Yes,
for interruption. Are you sharing any PPT?
no, sir. Right now, I'm not sharing. I will be sharing in between, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Coming back to the topic, I've been explaining about why these industrial robots are equipped rather than going in for the human beings. And as I said before, I will be sharing one more video for you guys about the real-time application of the industrial robots into the entertainment field. most of the people would have gone through these theme parks. These theme parks will be obviously having the roller coasters. If you take this roller coaster, there are many advantages and disadvantages running around these roller coasters. If you take the disadvantages part in the current traditional roller coasters, it occupies a very large space, and the safety is a very big question mark. And also about the main thing why we used to go to these roller coasters, about the thrill what we get out of these roller coasters. But once you go to the roller coaster and if you come back, if you go for the same roller coaster again, you will not feel the same thrill. And it is that's all. Obviously, once you construct all these roller coaster, once you are passing through, that's it. This roller coaster efficiency is gone for all. So there are one different application of the industrial robot where we call it as a robo coaster or the KUKA coaster. KUKA, the manufacturing company, has started this new venture of roller coaster. I'm just showing this video about to explain about how these roller coasters are efficiently used in the entertainment purpose.
The KUKA coaster? Think Daddy would do this? Oh no.
Yeah, I just wanted to show you guys about the basics of how these kind of the industrial robots are taken advantage into various application according to the humans thinking going on. So coming back to the technical part, I'm just going to share you my screen and I'm going to explain about the teach pad what we have right next to us. I'm going to explain you in this presentation manner. Later, understanding about the teach pad, where we can go into the robot straight away, and we can understand about how these robots are working on the real time work. Yeah, right now this is the KUKA smart pad teach pendant, or generally we call it as teach pendant. This is how this KUKA teach pendant will be looking like. This teach pendant is nothing but, as I said before, this is the control for the manipulator, which is inside the safety fence. And this teach pad is a touch enabled teach pad. The blue color screen which you are seeing inside the teach pendant is a totally touch enabled screen. It has a user interface which is similar to the normal Windows user interface. Each and every robot has their own programming language, as this KUKA is having KUKA KRL, KUKA robotic language. And the buttons or the total structures what we are going to see right now is about KUKA. If you understand these KUKA's basic teacher dependent learning, it is easy to adapt into any other kind of robot learning process also. Because if you take Android and Apple iOS, these Android and iOS are totally different kind of OS or the user interface. But these kind of user interfaces are not that it should they are totally different and no similarities between these two user interfaces. Obviously there are different uh, differences in the both user interfaces, but there are a lot of similarities about the dialers or the messages or the application what you are going to use. Everything is similar, but only the some of the applications are going to change. That is where these teach pendant from one manufacturer to other manufacturer, it depends to change. There is a text that I am not audible. Am I audible right now? Can anyone post any messages? Am I audible? I think I'm audible. Can anyone post a message that whether the audibility is good? Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, thank you, sir. Right now, I'm going to explain about the teach pendant with the number one posted teach pendant is the safety eject. Actually, if you go into the industry, the controllers right now, what we have is a single controller, a single teach pendant, and a single manipulator. This will not be the same scenario if you go for the industry. They will be having multiple manipulators, and the controllers all will be located in a remote location where it is air conditioned. And this teach pendant for similar controllers, they won't be having multiple teach pendant. They will be having a single teach pendant because all these total cost of this robot will take around 45 lakhs to 70 lakhs. It depends upon the payload and the manufacturer which we are going to guide for. They will be charging for the manipulator separately, the controller separately, as well as the teach pendant separately. So purchasing the teach pendant in the industrial situation, they will not purchase each and every teach pendant for all the controllers. So they will be purchasing one or two teach pendants. And these teach pendant safety remove tool, that is the number one. If you hold it and you can remove it from the controller, you can also attach to the another controller using this safety eject button. It is like simply our USB safety remove USB. There is an option, right? Similarly, the safety eject teach from the teach pendant to the from the controller to the other controller. The next one is the teach mode. Teach mode is nothing but it is a key-like structure. You can turn it clockwise once, and you can change the teaching methodology, and you can again turn it to anti-clockwise to separate the position. There are four different methods of teaching, and that is T1, T2, automatic, and extended automatic. It is nothing but in a simple terms. If I want to explain as the robot is nothing but it will do the operation what we are giving as a command. Before getting into the real-time application, we have to make trials. On doing the trials, we cannot run this robot in the maximum efficiency, so it may cause any danger. To avoid these kind of dangers, there are teaching modes. The T1 mode, the maximum velocity of the robot will be 250 per second. In the T2 mode, that is the trial 2 mode. Trial 2 mode is after you completing all the program, you are going to check it in the real-time environment. That is T2 mode. There, the maximum velocity of this robot is 2 meters per second. Next one is extended and automatic extended mode. It's nothing but you don't need your touchpad or anything. You don't need to start the button or anything. The real-time application of industry, it will be keep on running again and again. So that kind of application can be done using the teach method or the teach key. The next one is number 3 is the safety key, where it is obviously available in all the industry environment. There are 3 safety keys should be available when you are using industrial robots. One is in the teach pendant, another one is in the controller, another one should be a defense. So anywhere near the people, whoever senses the a collision or anything, they can be pressing the safety stop key, so that immediately the robot gets stopped at the position whatever the work has been going on. It may be in any mode, it may be teach 1, teach 2, or automatic mode. The robot tends to stop at that position. And coming back to 4, I will be explaining the 5 later. I'll come back to 4. These are the control keys for its access or degrees of freedom. These can be controlled by 2 methodologies. Basically, one is through the vertical coordinates, another one is through the axial coordinates. These robots are a 6-axis articulated robot. The 6-axis can be controlled by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The 5 plus or minus key that is mentioned as 5. There is again some issues in the audio, I think. So some people are telling I'm not audible, and some people are responding again I'm audible. Okay, I'll be explaining this. In the meanwhile, I think I'm audible. Yes. Yes, Dr. Wilmurugan sir, there are some safety sensor fitted in the doors of the fence. That is the fence. Whenever we unlatch the fence, the robot system will be stopped. It will not be working. And whenever the closing the door, the system will be engaging. But for the training purpose, since we are in the training purpose, we have to teach very close to the robot for the understanding. We have disabled the sensors for the working, safety sensors for disabled for the as of now. It can be enabled just by pushing off the button, and it will be always enabled. And in the gripper part also, there are some safety stop buttons. I'll be explaining once I go near to the robot after completing the teach pendant concept. As I said before, these each 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 keys are for 6 degrees of freedom. In general, if you take world coordinate system, it is X, Y, Z, the Cartesian coordinates, and the rotation of X, rotation of Y, and rotation of Z. Otherwise, it is called as pitch, yaw, and roll. All the 6 degrees of freedom for moving positive direction or in the negative direction. It is totally, it can travel 183 degrees positive and 183 degrees negative. Totally, it can travel around 366 degrees. That is what the capability of each servo motor. And the fourth key, coming back to the fourth key, whatever we have done in the button mode, we can control it in the mouse. It is called a 6-key mouse, 6-dimensional mouse. You can control the X, Y, Z, pitch, yaw, roll, all the 6 degrees in the mouse, which is in the fourth button. And 6, we call it as POV, program over velocity. And 7, we call it as HOV, hand over velocity. The hand over velocity and program over velocity is nothing but when we are trialing a program, we will be trialing the motion of the robot should be defined to a certain speed. It should not go too fast. So to control the program while timing, we use HOV, hand over velocity. While we are jogging in the sense in the robotic terms, we use the moving of the robot. The robot should not go into a faster speed. So we can define the speeds with the HOV, and using POV, program over velocity, or play over velocity, when you are completing a program. After that, if you wanted to run in a trial manner, this POV will be working on. The 8 is nothing but the menu key, where the inside the blue column, how these new programs created, how we have to rename the program, everything is done with the menu button. And the 9 is for gripper controls. When the robot is coming from the manufacturer, there won't be any type of grippers added to the robot. We have to incorporate the gripper according to the application what the end user has been requested for. So the gripper, what we are using is the 2-fingered pneumatic gripper. It is supported by a compressor for the air supply. So this is what we are using right now. And the 10th button is the play button. When we are completed program, if we want to check line by line, we'll be using the 10 and 11 to go forward or to go for backward. 10 will be going forward and 11 will be coming backward. And 12 is the stop button. When you are running the program in trial mode, you can stop using the 12 button. And 13 is for edit. Edit is nothing but if you are writing some new program to rename it, you can use this 13 button. And in the rear type of the rear of the teach pendant, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And there are similar functions for 1, 3, and 5. These are called as enable button. If you hold this button only, the robot will be working on. If you are leaving this enable key, the robot will not be working. Just a minute, I will show you the teach pendant right away. Yeah, this is the rear of the teach pendant actually. This is the button which is shown in the number 3, 5, and 1 is over here. This is the 1. So 1, 3, 5 is nothing but if I hold it, only the robot will be working on. If I leave it, the robot will not be working. Whatever the keys I am pressing inside is totally waste of time. If I'm enabling the key only, the robot will be working on. So this is the robot enabling key. This is one important concept of the industrial robot when you are training. And this robot enable key is very, very precise key. Where if you hold it in the middle term, the robot will be working on. If I leave it, it will not work. And if I hold it in a very fast, very pressurized manner also, I think you can hear a sound. Yeah, the sound will come when we hold it in a very pressurized manner. Uh, Full mode, sorry. Just a minute, I stop this presentation and go for the full mode. Yeah, I can see, you can see this clearly right now. When I hold it very tightly, what happens is it will not work. It is accidental occurrence mode where this teach pendant works on with. If I hold it in a very lighter manner with my conscious knowledge, only this enable key will be working on. If I leave it, it will not work. Again, as I said before, if I hold it very tight, also it won't work. Why it is? Because if you go in an industry, when you see any robots are nearing to pollution, or you see some actions going to occur when you have the teach pendant in your hand, one thing what you will do is, while programming in an if you are a pretty clear person or if you are clear minded, you will leave it. Or if you get into inexperienced fellow, if you get into panic, what you will do is suddenly you will hold it very tight. If you hold it very tight also, this robot enabling will be stopped it as of such off. That is what the advantage of using these kind of keys. And I hope there is some glare in the screen so that it won't be that much visible, but the keys and the stuff may be visible to you. This is how the real teach pendant what we have in the Koka C4 controller will be looking like. And I will show you the 6-axis, how the 6-axis in the robot works on, and what are the grippers are added in a small video. Between this time, I will be shifting my laptop to one more place where you can I can show you the manipulator very efficiently. Right now I'm going to play the video for you. Please visualize what are the 6-axis, how it works on. Later I will be showing with the real-time manipulator what which we have on the Kuka KR16. Yeah, I think right now I'm visible to you. Please post in the chat section if the manipulator is visible to you. The manipulator, I think, visible to you. Thank you very much. This is the KUKA KR16 manipulator. It is not safe to reach into the safety fence. Actually, this is a safety fence. We have a glass enabled safety fence, and at the top we have a sensor. When it latches only, the enabling key should be working on. We are disabling for the training purpose. And this is the teach pendant what we have in the KR16. In the teach pendant, I'm going to explain you about how this robot in KR16 will be working on with. As I said before, this is the enable key. Why you will be having a doubt that why these three enable keys are available in the real-time environment. If I am a right-handed person, for example, if I'm a right-handed, this is my right hand. If I'm a right-handed person, what I will do is I will use this touch keys using my right hand. So what I will do is I will be using my left hand to do. So using the left hand, I can hold this enable key and I can work with the robot, and whatever point I wanted to go with, I can work. If I'm a left-handed person, I can hold this through the right hand and I can go with the left hand. If I'm working for a longer period of time, I cannot hold it by this way, so I can use holding by this way. It will support in my forearm, and I can easily hold it for a longer period of time. That's where the three enable keys are available, and that is where this KUKA is for a three enabled key. Not the all the robots will be enabled with three this enabled key. We have two more robots in CIT. One is the Mitsubishi Belfa 4F 4 kg payload Mitsubishi robot, and also we have 2.5 kg enabled Stowgli from Swiss-based robot. So these kind of robots also we have in our facility where they don't have multiple enable key; they have single enable key. Only with KUKA we have multiple enable keys. Coming back to the topic about how these manipulators work on. As I said before, these touch keys for axis movement. I'm going to show you what are the axis how this manipulator is working on. First of all, I'm going with the world axis. World axis is the world coordinates where the Cartesian coordinates x, y, and z it will be moving on, and rotation of x, rotation of y, and rotation of z. There's nothing but each arm is controlled with the servo motor. It has various servo motor near each arm and three servo motors to the rear to the motor. If I am able to show you the by running the robot, I can show you the other servo motors. We have six servo motors for six axes. Each servo motor is responsible for its positive and negative direction movements. Right now, I am going to show you how it is going to come forward and backward in x-axis. Right now, it is moving in a very slow manner. As I said before, there is one term called HOV, hand-over velocity. If I'm shifting the speed of the hand-over velocity and keeping right now the hand-over velocity the maximum, I'm going to work it right now. You can see right now the bot is moving in a little bit faster manner compared to the previous. This is where the x-axis is the x positive direction and x negative direction. It will be in the linear. Right now, I'm going to try you guys show you about the y direction, y positive direction, and y negative direction. Again, I'm going back to the y positive direction. Right now, I'm going to show you about the z direction, z negative, and z positive. This is the z negative and z positive. These are the three linear axes. As you can see, it is going either top to bottom or left to right or front and back. These are linear axes, perpendicular axis. If you see the rotary axis, now I'm going to show you the rotary axis. You can see the top head of the gripper. You see it, I think you can see it. The head of the gripper tends to move in the positive and negative directions. This is how this positive and negative directions of the gripper on the A. And the next one is the B. You can see it moves up and it moves down. This is how B works on. Next one is C. How they see pitch on roller. So these are the world coordinates. As I said before, these are the world coordinates, and if you see the axis of each robot, this axis of each robot depends upon each servo motor. Now I'm shifting this to axis mode. If I'm shifting this into axis mode, each and every axis, for example, if I'm turning the first axis, the first base of the motor will be rotating in the positive direction and negative direction. I will show you, you can see it very efficiently. Now the base, first axis, base motor. Right now, I think you can see it from this view about the base motor. It is located over here. This is the base motor. According to the base motor, it can turn the positive direction and it can come back to the negative direction also. So now the second axis, second motor is located over here. This motor will be working on for the second. You can see no other movements will be there. Only the second arm, only the second arm, this movements can be occurred. Positive and negative. So the next three is the third arm, which is located over here. The positive and negative is the third arm. So only the third arm movement will be there. So you can see this axis movement is totally based on the servo motors, which is located on each and every axis. Now I'm going to explain you about the pitch on roll, which is located on the three axes in the back side. The fourth axis, which relates the head rotation. Fourth axis, the bottom and top. And sixth, top. Right now I will be taking back the robot to the home position. This is the home position which CIT defined it. Each and every robot will be having its own home position according to the manufacturers as well as the end users application need. And one more thing we have not seen is the gripper part. I think there will be a light will be exposing to you. I will be trying to move it closer to me so that you won't have any issues in the visibility. Just a minute. Right now, I think it is fine. I will show you. I'm having my mic near so that you can hear the sound. The gripper, as I said before, it is a pneumatic gripper. I think you can hear the sound. There's nothing but the end effector, the two-fingered gripper, which can close and open according to the pressure, the supply which you are giving through the pressurized compressor. So this is a two-fingered pneumatic gripper. This is how this two-fingered pneumatic grippers works on. And right now I'll be explaining you about the programming part. Programming part is a little bit complicated. I'll be trying to show you a small program. Later that I'll be explaining how this program is actually working, what are the commands we are going to give and how this command works on. That is what I'm going to explain you in today's session. So let's start the program. Okay, the handover velocity, I explained it, how the motion of the arm is working when I'm working on. Now I'm going to run a program which is predefined, this small program only around, you can see, it's reflecting, I can see in the, yeah, this is only, this contains some 27 lines of program, very basic program to show you how a basic pick and place works on. That is what I'm trying to show you in this program. In this program, I'm going to show you the program over velocity. The HOV handover velocity I explained to you in the earlier stage. Now I'm going to show you about the program over velocity, how this I have a aluminum cube, which is a very heavy cube. This cube is, I'm going to position in a place. We have structurized the position around 12 positions out here in the table. I'm going to position in one position where this pre-program the robot to pick it from here and place it in some other position. It's a basic program. How I did this program is that I will be making the robot to move from one position to other position. I will be saving the points. This is how this program is made. It is nothing offline programming. It is just online programming with use of teach pendant. I can record each and every point where the robot is moving and I can save the points. That is how this robot has been This program has been taught to the robot using the T1 mode, and also we're going to do it in the T1 mode only. Right now you can see it is moving in a faster way. I'm reducing the speed, so I have controlled the program over velocity. Right now the bot is moving very slowly. If I want, I can increase the speed. Right now it is coming fast, and I am decreasing again. So I can define the program speed of the robot very precisely according to the robot. It's a very precise program, and be showing how it is works on. Robot is right now nearing its path to the cube. I'll be decreasing the speed once it is going to near the cube, because it is a very heavy object. Since if there is any collision, you can see the robot has picked the cube, and it is going to place it in the other place. Right now, I've defined the robot to pick the object from one position, and I'm train the object to place in some other position. It may look very easy, or you can see it as it is what a thing that you are going to take a product from one place and keeping it in another place, but it takes immense training to move this heavy object and move in a precise manner. Why I'm going to I'll show you right now why it is very difficult. I'm not able to explain why it is. If you see the tolerance between the cube and the is very minimum when it is in the open condition. When I give the closed condition, there won't be any tolerance gap between the cube and the mouth of the robot. And this robot, you can see it has a payload of 16 kg. It can have the ability to lift 16 kg, and it can move the maximum speed of 2 meters per second. So once you carry this much amount of load and without any tolerance, and the club total structure weight is around 245 kg, 248 kg. So it is very heavy machinery where it has to be handled with total care. So it is very important to understand about its nominal movement and kinematic movements. So programming knowledge is very important than the understanding the robot's kinematic is more important than the program knowledge. So you have to, the programming is very easy. You can do it in the offline mode also in the system, but incorporating into the robot, you have to understand the precise movement and about its kinematic. That is what I wanted to explain. And I will also explaining you about what is the programming I've done, how this programming is done in the methodology. Actually, when we are, I will show you. It is very difficult for me to show this how it is happening inside the program. I'll be trying to show you with respect to the teach pendant side and robot side by side, so that you can easily understand. Right now, I am in the mid of a program. I am going to restart it. The initial start line and end line of the program will be always a home position where it is enabled. So if I am moving the bot to the first position, it will always move to the home position. This is my home position, so it is always moving to the home position. If I want to write a new program, I am going to start new. There is a command called new over here. I'm clicking new. There is a new program coming. I'm naming it as ATAL Atal. I'm giving Atal for the name of this program and clicking OK. There is the program called Atal has been created. I'm opening the Atal program. There, if you see, only two lines are written. One is the start line is home position, and another one is end line is also the home position. Audible. I think I'm audible to this ma'am. Neha.
Sir, anything?
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, you're audible. You can go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, the start and initial program of the initial line of the program will always be the home position. The in between the home position, you have to touch. As said before, this is the total touch enabled pendant, and in between you have to touch. Just a touch is fine. And there is a command called motion. You have to click motion. Uh, this is where very important. You have to understand very important. There are three terms which you are going to understand in this robotics. The movement of the robotics. There is, if you touch the first drop down, there is called PTP, LIN and CIRC. That is nothing but the PTP is nothing but point to point, and LIN is nothing but linear. CIRC is circular. Point to point is nothing but if I'm showing you, please understand. See the manipulator. If I'm jogging the board from this position X to, I'm going to move to this. Okay, I've turned this move this position. I'm going to record it as linear. Okay, and I'm going to save command OK, and I'm going to create one more point. This is that I'm going to move this board to this position. This is, and one more. This is PTP. This point I'm going to set as PTP, and I'm going to command OK. So what is the difference between linear and PTP? Okay, that is what we are going to see right now. Until now, we have created only two lines of program. You will see what is the difference between these two lines. I'm going to select the program. The initial thing, as I said before, the initial thing is wherever the bot is, when I'm starting the program, it will be starting only from the home position. So it will straight away go to the home position. The first thing is, the first line of the program is, I have programmed this point, the manipulator from here to here in a linear manner. So we'll check whether it is coming in a linear manner or not. So you can see the bot is coming in a linear manner. The second line, what we programmed is from here, it is going to move somewhere here. But the point which you are given is PTP, point to point. Let's see how it's moving right now. So it is straight away crossing this line from here to this way. It has somewhat moved backward and it has reached this position. It is not moving in a straight line. If it is not that clear that whether it is moving in a straight line or not, you cannot visualize it. But the basic difference between the linear and PTP is nothing but linear is if you are giving a start point and end point, it will travel only in a straight line. If you are giving PTP to the start point and end point, it can take any position which is reliable to the robot arm. So if it is comfortable for it to come in a circular manner or to a zigzag manner, whatever it may be, it is compatible to the manipulator. We cannot identify whether it is coming in a straight line may be a better manner or coming in a circular manner may be a better manner. We cannot identify. Only we are giving linear, it will go in a straight line. If you are giving PTP, it will be moving in a zigzag manner. Just a minute, I've got a question. Is there any PLC control used for pick and place gripper movement and conveyor operation? Yes, Dr. Ravimurugan sir, there are PLC controllers available for the pick and place application as well as the conveyor movements where there is dynamic movements of objects. These kind of robots are used for static movements of objects, not for the dynamic movement of objects. These dynamic movement of objects will be understanding in the demo class in the tomorrow session. This is the KUKA session. It is basically about the static mode of robotic. So right now, again, coming back to the program, I'm going to bring back the robot to its original home position. This is the two lines we have written. Right now, we are going to see the third condition, which is in the circular mode. There is one more important mode. Right now, I'm canceling the program. Again, I'm going for edit motion. In the third line, I'm clicking the third line and I'm giving motion again. In this motion, I'm going to click circular. Circular is nothing but நெட்வொர்க் இருக்கு. நெட்வொர்க் காலி இது போயிடுச்சு. நான் இதில் கனெக்ட் பண்ணுறேன் சார். இதில் கனெக்ட் பண்ணுறேன். இதில் கனெக்ட் பண்ணி ஆல்மோஸ்ட் முடிஞ்சது சார். ஸ்டாப் ஆயிடுச்சு. உங்களுக்கும் டிஸ்கனெக்ட் ஆயிடுச்சு. அது பார்த்து இன்ட்ரூவ்.
Sir, sorry for the disturbance. Just a minute.
Yes, enabled. You have 5 minutes.
டைம் ஓடிக்கிட்டு இருக்குல்ல.
ஓடிட்டு.
ரெக்கார்டிங்.
Sorry sir, sorry for the interruptions. There was a network issue, and I was explaining you about the final part of the circular motions. That is where the initial point of the last line will be considered as the first point, and we have to teach 2 points. One is the auxiliary point, and another one is the end point. I'm going to move the board to the auxiliary point, which we consider as somewhere more over here and y direction over this point. Now I'm going to take a circular manner. So I'm going to take a point a little bit higher and a little bit slider also. I'm going to teach it as t-chalks, and I'm going to teach end as I'm going to a little bit down and also towards the right. So I'm going to teach it as teach end and command OK. Right now we have seen linear, PTP, and circular. So these 3 motion we are going to literally see how this program is totally going to work on. We will go this program, and I'm going to select this program at all. And right now you can see if I press the initial position, it will come back to the home position, and I'm going to play the right now, which is a linear, which is working on. The second line from there, it is going for PTP. From there, it is going the arc manner. You can see the circular manner. I will be doing it once again. Right now, it is coming in the circular manner. I think you can see the circular manner movement. I will show you again. I'm reversing and forwarding. That is what I'm doing. And I'm taking to the circular manner. Again, just showing you the circular directional movement. So this is how, again, finally, it will come back to the end position. This is how any complicated programs or anything can be worked on. And working on with the gripper motion, as I said before, closing and opening of gripper is through one click. And this click can be connected using commands. Over commands, there is a thing called gripper trick. In gripper trick, in gripper you can fix, open or close. These open or close are the 2 commands which is available in the gripper programming. I am clicking cancel command. So that this is how basic programming can be done in any methodology of the KUKA programming knowledge. I think hopefully in this session I have efficiently made you understand how industrial robots will look like and how the basic programming of industrial robots are done. And if you have any questions regarding the session, you can please post. I will be trying to answer you the questions possibly. What will be the duration to learn the complete programming of a KUKA robot? Not much. If you take the basics programming, it has around 40 hours for student level of learning, which is prescribed by CIT and KUKA together with we have prescribed it. It is about the time what you spend continuously. It matters because if you continuously tend to work around some 6 to 7 hours, 6 hours, 5 to 6 hours per day, some 2 weeks is more than enough for you to learn about the basic programming knowledge, and that will be the efficient time to take to expertise in programming in KUKA. That will be more than enough to exercise programming in KUKA. If you have any questions or queries, you can please post. What is the language used for robotic control? I am a CSE faculty. Okay, ma'am. Actually, the programming, as I said before, in KUKA, the above screen language, it is just like our cell phones, OS. In our above screen, it is nothing but just the KUKA, KUKA robot language. They're going to move the robot and record the points. It doesn't need any kind of programming knowledge to train on this above the screen stuff. Under the screen, working on the program is the embedded C, but we are not going to concentrate on those embedded C work while understanding about the programming knowledge of KUKA. Once we are into the development of the robots, there we have to understand about the Underwood language. But right now we are training about the application part, so we are not touching the Underwood language. Programming language, Fanuc system. No, it is not any kind of Fanuc system language, etc. It is each robot have their own language. As I shown before, the joint based or the world coordinate based, that may vary. That basic difference in Mitsubishi, what we have here, it is given as world coordinates and axis coordinates. But in case of Mitsubishi robot, what we have in the other facility, it shows joints J1, J2, J3. That is a basic difference between both 6-axis robots. Once you are able to work in this kind of robot, it is easy to work on any other robots also. Thank you very much, sir. And are you providing any training in CS? We are providing a lot of on-field training in CIT. Due to this pandemic, we are not conducting any offline regular training methodology. Only we are conducting the online trainings for various colleges and various universities all over India. And also we are training people of industries like Saint-Gobain, Daimler, Mitsubishi. So these kind of people also get trained from our facilities. Thank you very much. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to train various experts and professionals and teaching professional community. And thanks once again for Atal and CIT for giving me this opportunity to train the peoples in the industrial robotics. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kishore. 1 second. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kishore. I hope this might have given some insight about the robot programming and how the movements can be controlled with the help of the programmings. I hope a lot of good comments we are getting in the chat box. So, as like these sessions, we have planned to have another 2 demo session. That means day after tomorrow and day after tomorrow in the same afternoon session. I hope this will be highly useful to the participants. Hence, I request all you to utilize this opportunity. And so, if you have any further doubts, so you can note down. And tomorrow also, Mr. Kishore will be available along with Mr. Karthik and myself. And any doubts, you can clarify tomorrow also. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, participants and the resource person, Mr. Kishore. And we will see in the tomorrow's session. And the tomorrow first session will be started by 9:30. And as it was said earlier, you will be getting the link within tonight, or the same link can be utilized to join the session tomorrow. And the thing is, you have to, whenever you are going to join new session, the current session window has to be closed, and new fresh window has to be opened, and the link has to be pasted, and you have to refresh. And for each session, you have to register, because if only you register for each session, your attendance will be calculated. Okay, so you register for each session, and if you have any doubt, you can freely approach us, or you can call us. And primarily, everyone, please join the WhatsApp group, which will be highly useful to get the fastest communication. Thank you so much. Thank you. We'll meet in the tomorrow's webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.